translate it.
Technology these days.
Yep. I think we're going.
Is that on, Clark?
Yep. Action.
Oh, action. Fantastic. Judith, Beck, welcome to the Relationship Show, proudly sponsored by Relationship Unlimited. Firstly, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. I feel like I'm a regular now.
Yeah, I think we can make that consistent. Yeah, are you happy to come on weekly?
Weekly, maybe not weekly, but you know.
How busy are you?
Pretty busy.
Are you right? Yeah, I guess being an author and an exec financial business owner. I mean, I guess for the audience, Judith, give us a little bit of a rundown who you are, where you were brought up, and what you're doing now.
Yeah, great. Well, just a little elevator pitch, 25 years plus running an executive search firm in Australia. And I also ran a women's organization, founded a women's organization about 10 years ago that I ran for 7 years, passed that on before COVID to the next generation, and wrote my book, No Sex at Work. And that came out during COVID as well. And then started podcast every step podcast full-time job, as you know, Lou.
Yeah, very busy indeed. So the No Sex at Work, what was the key driver and motivator behind writing that?
Well, the idea basically was that at work you're not a gender or race or whatever you may identify. You're a business person, and that's your individuality. So when you come into the work environment, you're an individual, and what can you as an individual do to get from A to B in the work environment? So what are the skills and capabilities that you need? It shouldn't be dependent on what your gender is or what your sex is. So I always thought, and when I was going into the work environment years and years ago, because I had good role models and I was always taught you could be whatever you wanted to be. When I went into my first job, I didn't go, oh, I'm a female. I'm going to be discriminated against and guys are going to hit on me. I didn't go in there thinking that way. I thought, I want to do well, and I want to get from A to B. I want to get there fast. How do I do it? What are the skills that I need? I didn't put those barriers in front of me. And that doesn't mean that occasionally those barriers weren't there, but I also learned how to knock them down and go around them. So, it's kind of like, those things aren't the majority, they're the minority. But so that's why I wrote No Sex at Work, because all through my career running financial recruitment group, when I was doing executive search and speaking to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of executives and hearing their stories and all that stuff, the reality of what was, I didn't see that any of my clients that I dealt with, and let's face it, most of them were men because they were in the more senior level positions back then, but none of them said to me, I want men. They didn't say, I don't want women in my, most often they'd say, I want a balance in my team. Aren't there any women out there? Or let's get a balance. But their main goal was to get the best person. And
what attributes and strengths do women have that men don't have biologically, do you think, in your experience that you've witnessed? Well, I mean biologically in the sense that we are fundamentally born with different chromosomes, but what attributes and strengths do women have in the corporate world that men don't possess?
I actually feel that it's about how you've been brought up and what skills you've been taught and what you've learned from your mentors that Bill and there are strong women and there are weak women. There are strong men and there are weak men. But who have been their role models and who have been the people behind them going into into the work environment. And the only difference that I saw, the big difference that I saw during those 25 years, was that the men had more mentors and advocates in their corner. So when we did a survey we used to do salary surveys and those types of things for Money Management magazine years ago. And one of the questions was about advocates and mentors. How many of you have in your group? And the guys at management level, on average, had 12. And the women said the women had less than one.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
or either 0 or 1. And then when we started digging into why, so let's say you have graduates going in, starting off, and usually graduate classes are about 50-50. So they go into the workforce 50-50. And what happens is the guys, when they're reporting to their team leader or whatever, and that team leader moves to another division, they keep in contact with that person. And that person becomes their first mentor. So then every person that they ever deal with through their whole career, they're keeping in contact and they're gathering them. Now, the women said that they didn't keep in contact with their bosses because, one, if it was a guy, it wouldn't be appropriate.
Very interesting. Wow.
And if it was a girl, I don't want to bother her. I don't want to impose. So therefore, if we're talking about differences, maybe the girls were brought up to be more silent. But again, that's learned. That's not genetic. So, don't speak until you're spoken to type attitude, and be polite, be the good girl, that kind of stuff. That's not genetic. That's just what people teach you when you're little, depending on who your role models are, growing up. But the guys didn't care if their boss was male or female. So therefore, that is a huge advantage, because when you're going for a management position and you've got all these go-to people that you can call up and ask questions and say, well, hey, what's this manager like? Or I'm going for this role and I don't really know a lot about it. Can you give me some information about what I need to know about this role, or even the competitors? And if you've got people like that in your corner, that's going to give you an edge every time. So basically, to me, it had more to do with the fact discrimination and women being even paid less, or not being in the senior level positions has more to do with lack of support than actual discrimination. Because when you get into those more senior roles, at the more senior level roles, when you go for that interview, and there's two of you, one's a guy and one's a girl, they're very equal at that stage. But if the guy has all this information, heads up information that he's called around and asked about, goes into that interview totally prepared, he's going to make a better impression. He's going to have more knowledge, and he's going to be able to, get over the line quicker than she's going to be able to get over the line. So that support system was key.
Have things changed today? Like, have you seen a transformational change of women now reaching out to their past bosses, and have you seen a progression with that?
I think a huge one good thing is that when I started Financial Executive Women years ago, the whole idea was that about pairing the member with an advocate who was more senior than her, but outside her organization. And then she also had to become an advocate to someone more junior than her outside her organization. So it was a give and get thing. And we also developed Few Good Men. And Few Good Men was all the senior or executive level men in the industry who volunteered to be advocates to next step women. So they could help them. They could help them get to that next level. And that really did, in our membership base anyway, it made a big difference, because they, like little things like, I used to call women up all the time to try to get them to go for senior level roles. And they'd go, I still have a lot to do in this role, or, I don't know if the timing's going to be right. And I'm going, the timing is never right. There's never a perfect time. If you're in a role and you're busy in your role, you're always doing something. You're always in the middle of something. So
Yeah, I'd
there's
imagine you strike me as someone being quite productive, Judith.
what's that?
You strike me as someone being quite productive.
Oh, at the end of the day, I would make them come and talk to me because I'd say, "What do you got?" I go, "What do you got to lose? What do you got to lose? Have a coffee."
Yeah, exactly. You were a results-driven individual. I remember that story that you told me last time we spoke, actually, when you flew up to Sydney to close the deal to the guy, to the man who was signing the checks, and then how he got back to the office, and then you found out that obviously the decision-making unit was bigger. But no, let's talk about that, about closing a deal. You've obviously got huge strengths and ability with closing the deal, asking for business. Why do you fundamentally believe out there in these days with a lot of salespeople out there that they're struggling to get runs on the board and results, and what can they do to enable them to close deals quicker, faster, stronger type thing?
To close the deal. Well, it's kind of like I'll quickly just go back to that last point that we were talking about, and it kind of correlates to this. If you don't go for the role or roles, don't complain that you're not getting promoted. Okay, so it's kind of like if you don't vote, don't bitch about who's in power.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. You've got no skin in the game.
You got no skin in the game. So the same thing. And in the case of closing deals and going in there, don't think that just because you go see one client or one or two clients that that's enough. So there's so many things with closing sales and where people make mistakes. We talked about this last time, is them not asking. The people not asking at the end of the day and prolonging the process so that they get these little wins instead of nipping it in the bud and go, basically, are you going to deal with me or not?
What makes a good closer?
A good closer, I think, is one, you've got to be authentic. So you've got to make the person feel special and that you're really interested in their business. So you've got to, I'm not just here, you're not just a transaction, you're not just another run on the board. I really want your business. I just don't want your business, I want to partner with you. So, I think the mistake a lot of salespeople make is that they see it as a transaction. And I know it depends on what the sale is, but if we talk about corporate sales where it's more of a service provider arrangement, I'm not selling you, I'm partnering with you. I want
actually, sorry to interrupt you there, Judith. For the people out there that don't understand the actual significant difference, what is the difference between selling to someone and partnering with someone?
Well, okay, so if you're selling to someone, then you're only interested in that sale. So I'll give you an example in recruitment. This is probably a good example. There's a lot of recruiters out there that they're only interested in just making the placement. Here's a candidate. I'm going to flick this candidate out here. We've all heard about that. And hopefully one sticks. And they're not thinking about the long-term relationship with the client or the long-term relationship with the candidate, which is a big mistake because then you're just constantly, as a salesperson, throwing things around and hoping things stick. You're not developing good relationships that are solid and that are going to be, because good solid relationships are not only great for business, but they're going to refer you business. And those people who you're dealing with at those companies leave to go to other businesses who then become clients as well. And if you haven't, developed that with them, they're going to go into that new business and they're going to go, okay, well, we'll just use whoever you're using here, rather than going, no, I really like this company that I used in my other organization, and I'd like to introduce them into here. So I think that, you really have to, when you're first developing, you got to really do your homework. You got to do your homework on who you're seeing. and look at their backgrounds. I mean, how easy is it today? I mean, you can look up everybody, you can Google them, and find out so much information about who it is that you're going to go see. And I looked you, Clay. I looked you up before I came on.
Oh, here we go. Okay. All right. There's them online.
Ditto, Judith. Ditto.
That kind of makes sense, right? I mean, she is an executive search, so she's just searching out who she's. And so, what did you find, Judith?
Is this?
Yeah, what'd you find, Judith?
Sorry, the video went down.
Basically, did you find out that his father was friends with Elvis Presley back in the day? No.
Oh no, I didn't find that one.
Oh,
It was only LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
The first thing you do is you go to LinkedIn, right? And you look, and I connected with him, and he came back and connected right away. So that was good. But those are the opportunities that we have today to be able to look people up. You would never have a conversation with someone that you wouldn't do that with. You'd go, okay, I want to know who I'm talking to, because that's just what you do, right? And salespeople have this huge opportunity right now to be able to get a lot of information about who it is that they're going to see, connect in with them, even sending a little note saying, I'm looking forward to having to our meeting next week. And, is there anything that they can ask questions. They have to start engaging with them, make them feel important.
Do you think we have too much information these days, Judith?
Well, do I think we have too much information? I think you don't want to do information overload.
Correct.
But you want to get the information for what's important. And if you've got a service to sell to an organization, so if you're selling a service, let's say to, let's say a major bank, and you're going in to see someone, well, you want to know the reporting line of the person that you're seeing, their background, who they dealt with, as much as possible. I want to overstudy before I see that person. I'd rather be over-prepared than under-prepared.
Sure. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
Exactly. And then I think the thing is that when you're presenting your service, you've got to find out what they're using now. What are they doing, and what is the need? What need do they have, and what solution? What problem can you fix? What problem can you fix for them? And why should they use you? What are the benefits? Why should you use you over the others? And we talked about this last time, but I used to focus on track record. Our track record, saving you money, quality, commercial, having a commercial fee structure. Don't be the overpriced one. Don't undersell yourself either, but make it commercial so that they don't think twice about using you again. And the other thing is having the information at hand. And we're talking about, obviously we've got Salesforce here, but can I tell you?
Go. Okay, and insert pitch here, unbiased from Judith Beck.
No, but I mean, look. Back in the day, we had in recruitment, we had recruitment tool. I think it was called Fast Track at the time. They're no longer, and I can't remember what the last one was. But I called it my memory, and the consultants all had to use it nationally, the thing is, when someone calls you on the phone and you're talking to them, and you're talking to you need to record what they said and what the result was. And some consultants that I had working for me over the years could not grasp that. And I found it funny as a salesperson. And those ones.
What do you think they couldn't grasp that?
They just lazy. I mean, they didn't last long because they didn't. They put notes in like, spoke with Mary. That would be it.
Yeah, no, that's thorough. I mean, hopefully Mary was. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, the thing about how someone else is going to interpret that when they come across that file. Spoke with Mary. Interesting. I've got a lot of intel now that when I go and speak with Mary next time.
Absolutely. It's so crazy. And the thing is that I used to say nobody, because they'd go, oh, I have a really good memory. I go, nobody has that good a memory. I don't care if you've got a photographic.
Actually, Judith, maybe you and I can do a role play. Oh, hey, it's Luke here. I just see that you've spoken to Mary, and I just wanted to follow up on that.
That's exactly. Nobody has that good. You know, for like a year, if something, because it might be after a year. But I remember one consultant saying one time when a HR person was saying, called him and had a go at him about, where's our references? You haven't sent any references, and these were supposed to be here, by now, and blah, blah, blah. And he just like on the system, and he goes, actually, I sent those to you a week ago. And I had it because they've been done for a week. And then it was like, oh, I really, and I remember him saying, kissing the screen, going, I love you.
Wow. Actually, run us through actually some of the core problems you were facing. So obviously you were well aware that that you needed a CRM system at your time, and data was so important. But what were the key problems you were facing before you implemented a really good system for your business that ultimately showed the one version of the truth of everything that you're doing from a business perspective?
Well, in the early days when I first started, those systems weren't even really available. So we had card files. We had to write everything down.
Clay's laughing. He remembers. I can see
Follow facts, baby.
Oh my God! I have the old Filofax that has the screen with it that you put in, and then you put it's hilarious.
Oh my God!
I did a presentation with it once, and I brought it and I held it up and I said, does anybody know what this? And nobody knew what it was. But at the end of the day, once we went into a CRM system and we were able to convert all that information on, it cut down the time and made things so much faster, smoother, made us smarter. It made us smarter because we literally can talk to the client and have the details right in front of us. I mean, who doesn't want that? It just always did make sense. And there was never a case where you'd go, and it wasn't cheap. Look, at the end of the day, we were paying a subscription and we were doing all that. It wasn't cheap, but it more than paid for itself. So,
sure.
As a business, you've got to look at those things and you got to go, okay, what am I wasting my time? Do I really want my consultant sitting there writing out notes and that kind of stuff when they can be on or looking for information when it's all there? And they should be out seeing clients or calling clients.
I hear you.
Or closing deals.
Closing deals, exactly right, exactly. And also, too, you wouldn't want one consultant in Sydney, and this could have happened, where consultants, the Sydney office and the Melbourne office could have easily been dealing with the same people. So you wouldn't want a consultant in Sydney calling the same person, saying something or trying to get when someone from the Melbourne office had just called them. And so everything we had was obviously in real time, so people could see so that would never happen because, people, that looks unprofessional, and you risk losing clients by doing those kind of things. Yeah,
100%. Good insight. Let's flip into hiring. You obviously know all about hiring. What are the big no-nos for anyone going for a role when it comes to putting their best foot forward? What should they just completely avoid doing?
Oh, there's a ton of things they should completely avoid doing.
Top three.
Well, first of all, they need to not make sure their digital imprint is intact. So they need to make sure that their profiles on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter accounts, whatever, because that's the first thing anybody's going to look at before they have that interview. So they need to make sure that they don't have anything stupid out there and that it looks professional. That's what they should do that. They should also, if we're talking about then now they get the interview, what's so important is that they need to be able to really quantify what it is that they have achieved. And what I mean by that is so many people will say things like, oh, I developed a new marketing program for the marketing department. Good for you. It could have cost them, That's right.
How's that relevant to the job description at hand?
But you'd have to say, I developed a new marketing program for the marketing department that improved productivity by 30% and saved the company $200,000. Boom. That is a full stop.
Okay, so what you're saying is that talk about finite, specific results that you've achieved, right?
It's either saving money or improving productivity or quality standards. And maybe it was training that improved something that allowed the company to then get business. It all boils down to getting business and money in the door, doesn't it? So at the end of the day, every business has to be profitable. So whatever role that you're in, if you're the receptionist, I'm the person who makes sure that every single person who comes in the office feels valued and feels good, like they're taken care of, because the end result is they walk away with a favorable opinion of the organization because I'm the meet and greeter. That's a very important job. How many places have you gone into an organization or to a shop where they don't even look up? And how does that make you feel? If I go into a shop and the person at the counter doesn't look up and say hello, I walk out.
Correct. Same here.
You don't deserve my business. At least say hello to me and say, if you need any help, let me know. It's so simple.
It's so simple. It is so simple, but yet so many don't do it. I mean, I got that golden rule too. Any hospitality venue I walk into, and if they just don't, and they're not showing any attention to me, I mean, look, I'm in there to spend money, right? It's like, I walked in the other day and she just gave me the rudest look, and it seemed like I was a really pain in her life to come in there. And I sat down, looked in the mirror, and I thought, man, I'm not feeling the energy in here. I'm walking somewhere else. Walked out, the little waiter comes out, is everything okay? I said, oh, not really, no, but I didn't need to explain myself. And you walk out, but and all they could have done was, oh, hello there, sir. We'll just get you a menu and we'll come right over. Like, how hard is that? But they were all on their phones. They didn't care. And also, this is the thing, though. A lot of them that work in there, they aren't the owners, and they show no enthusiasm or care factor.
But, those the owners need to step it up. They need to train those people and make sure that, because if the owners will, because, they want the business and they'll, they'll look after the customer when they can, they try harder. But then if you have staff there during the times that you're not working and they're not doing the job, you're not training them.
Correct.
You got to train them. You got to say, first of all, no phones on the floor. How hard is that? It's like saying no phones at school. Why do kids need phones at school? It's like you can have it and you leave, but no phones on the floor. That's just the way it is. I mean, it's your job.
That's exactly right. Hey, let's flip into the reasons why you got into recruitment. Why do you think you gravitated towards recruitment, and then what do you ultimately love about closing a deal?
Well, you know what? I fell into it. So I was in banking, and then my role got made redundant, and so I was going to seeing a recruiter. And the recruiter that I was seeing put me out to all these jobs. And some of them were like nothing like what the job description was. and so then I went for this one role with a financial institution. It was like a head of marketing role. And I had 10 interviews and it went on forever. And then at the end of it, they said, oh, you're just going to meet a colleague. And it's pretty much a tick of the box. And I go, oh, great. So I went into that interview nonchalant, like I was just going to have a cup of coffee. And so anyway, you're the only one kind of thing. And so then I get home and I get the call from the recruiter and they said, you just missed out. And I go, what do you mean I just missed out? I thought I was the only one. And I was really annoyed by that process because then I found out that that person was the future CEO. So it wasn't just a colleague. I went to another recruitment firm who said, I'm going to go on holidays. Will you take care of my business for a couple of weeks? Because I like your background, blah, blah, blah. And so I did. And I loved the job. And but they weren't in a position to take people on as partners or anything. So I actually took a job with a search firm for 8 months because I loved the job, but I hated that company because it was all about ticking the box. And that situation that I had of going for 10 interviews and not being, it all boiled down to companies not getting the idea that the candidate is as much the client as the client. So recruitment is the only business in the world where your product can say no.
What was one of the most proudest moments, Judith, for your recruitment career?
The proudest moments.
That's okay. Yeah, you can email me.
I was proud of a lot of them because we did achieve a lot, and I think client feedback was probably repeat business, and a lot of people that I've placed in, that I placed early on in their career, have come back and said you were instrumental in the journey, or they ended up, and that's another thing. Someone you place 10 years ago, it can be a major client. My first major client was a candidate that I helped that wasn't my candidate. So he was going for a role with a search firm, but they weren't doing anything for him. And so, and it was during that recession we had to have. And
we had to have. Oh, okay.
Recession we had to have. And he had been made redundant. He was a general manager. And anyway, I helped him with his interview and resume. I actually drove him to the interview because he didn't want to be late, and we were at one end of Collins Street going to the other. And he wasn't my candidate, and he got the job. And I got all the business after that. So it was like an investment in time. And I've told that story before, but it's such an important story, I think, because, if you do the right thing by people, they'll remember it. They'll remember. It's easier to be nice than it is to be mean, I think.
What's it called? Takes a lifetime to build a reputation and 5 minutes to lose it.
I used to say to my consultants, you're only as good as your last placement.
Yeah. That's so. I mean, you know how I was in like full corporate sales with heavy targets. It was like my manager always, like, I'd get a big deal. I'd hit 150 grand the quarter, and then he'd always say, yeah, but there's always next month, Luca. And it was like, hang on a minute, like you never really get valued in the world of sales. It's just like, even if you, over a year anyway, but it was like month by month. But you'd sit there and go, man, a little bit of the packer, but they wouldn't pat you on the back because they want you to always feel like you need to do more. It was just shocking.
I don't always pat them on the back, but the reality is
you did the same thing with you as a leadership.
If they make a bad placement, the point I was trying to get across with them, don't cut anything out of the process. Don't get complacent, and make sure you're serving, because just because you have a client, sometimes salespeople get complacent and they think, oh, so and so. And that's why when companies would say to me, oh, we've been dealing with XYZ for 10 years. And, and I think everybody's been dealing with someone before they start dealing with you. So that company probably, and the companies that we took business from, those companies got complacent, and their service, they thought, oh, that manager, he's okay. I don't need to call him back today. I'll call him back Monday. Oh, John knows all about that. They wouldn't have done that with a new client. And so you have
True.
to treat every client just like you did the first time, with the same respect, the same consideration, meet the deadlines, follow up, all that. Just because you've gone out, and had drinks with them or lunch with them, and you socialized with them, you've got to be on the ball with that person. You can't drop the ball, basically. Or be
Correct.
prepared.
Let's talk. Yeah, no, all very good insight. Let's talk about because obviously you would have had many deals across the line in your corporate career. Let's talk about one that really sticks out to you, like a highlight deal, and why that was so important to you, how long it took, some of the the challenges, and then what it meant for you as closing something that's significant. Yeah, that'd be great to unpack.
I think well, the last time we talked about the one that I flew up to Sydney, so I won't use that one. But I'll use one that when I was starting Few.
Fresh content, Judith.
Fresh content, yeah. So I'll use the one when I was starting Few, because that's one I'm really proud of. So I wanted to start Financial Executive Women, and I had an idea about the pairing and everything, and so I put together like a process of what I thought it would look like. Didn't go out, doesn't take 3 months to do that. So I had an idea, I had a plan, and I had a strategy of what I wanted to do. And so and here's where your networks are important. So I went to 2 people, first off, from my networks, who were general managers at major banks, and they were really supportive, really, really supportive. They're like, we can do this. Now, one had the authority of just doing it, because some of them, when you do it, they've got to send it all over the place, and it's there's 25 prayer meetings, and there's this and that and all kinds of stuff happening before it ever gets in. And then it's like a year later, and I'm like, and so this is where I did a fast close, because this is what I thought. I'm not mucking around with this. I've just developed a women's group that is actually going to help you. I'm not pay, it's like a not-for-profit. I'm not paying myself a salary. It's going to help you, company, and it's going to help the women in your organization. So you either work with me as a partner, or we're not on the same bus. I didn't say it exactly. I didn't say it like that, but that's the attitude I had in my head. I was like, so I went in with basic, this is for you. This is a partnership. This is what it's going to do for the women in your organization. And this is what it's going to do for the industry. And so, the first person got it.
Sorry to interrupt you, Judith. So to break that down, you were really you went through features, benefits, and then a cost-benefit analysis.
Yes. And the way that it was costed was that it would be, I didn't want them for 1 year. And I actually said that. I go, I don't, because it was a corporate membership. I don't want your membership for 1 year. This is the long term. I want the membership renewed every year. Obviously, we have to meet our parameters, but if we're doing what we say we can do, my expectation is this is an ongoing thing until there's total equality and there's total everything, right? One day we'll get there. So, because it was too much, it's too complicated to put all that together for a 1-year client. So it had to be presented in the way that this is a long term. And I expect it. And so what I did is I also made sure that we had people from those organizations on the advisory board, so that they had a buy-in, they had a say, they had everything else. So in that early first year, my goal was to get the first 2 in the first 2 big banks, and I did. And then the third one came on very quickly after that, and all through my network. So I was really, really proud of that. But I had to do it fast, and I had to be specific, and I had to say, and I actually said to all of them, I'm not going to HR with this. So if you want to refer me to HR, this isn't a HR program. because we all know programs die in HR. Sorry, HR people, but you're very bureaucratic sometimes.
Just ruining the dreams of any HR up-and-coming graduate out there. Sorry, HR, but yeah, programs go to die there, right?
Oh my God! Unless they're their program, like I would. There was no way I was going to go to HR because I thought if I present this to HR, they're going to go, no, we have our own programs, and they won't understand it the same way because a lot of back then, it might be different now, a lot of the HR areas had people who weren't actually industry, from the industry, or didn't work within the divisions. They were straight HR. So therefore, they had other priorities. And I knew this was going to work. So I said, if it had, and the people that I went to got it. They all said, yeah, no, we don't have to go to HR. We're with you on that one. They didn't want to go any more than I did. Anyway, so we did that, and we got the first 3 major ones on board. And that was a big win for us. And that really helped. Then having those companies brought in all these other ones. And then, we managed to put product managers in each one of those companies. And the other thing that we did that I think I was proud of, but also really helped, is every year we got people from the clients, so people that were members, senior members. We had senior and junior members. We had senior members, junior members, people on the advisory. We got them together in Sydney for a full day. Tell me what you don't like. Tell me what you don't like. And we're going to rip everything apart, and then we're going to put it back together. So what don't you like about our website? What would you see differently? Go in there, just beat us up. And those were the most powerful events because we got great ideas out of it. And we brainstormed, and also it brought them in, buying into it as well. So it was more like, this is your group. This is your group. This is for you. You either take it or you don't, kind of thing. And, and we also, in the first year, you asked me about sometimes what men and women do differently. Well, in the first year, when we would I'd pair Mary with Susie, and then Mary would be an advocate to Jeannie. So then I'd call Mary and I'd say, Mary, how are you going with Susie, who would be a very senior person. Usually it would be someone from another organization, very senior. And she goes, oh, I haven't had time to call her. Because they were supposed to meet four times a year. It was all structured. That was a process. And she'd go, oh, no, I haven't called her yet. And I'd be going, you haven't called her? I would want her as my mentor.
You haven't called her because all the notes in the CRM just said, spoke to Mary.
I would get this. I'm too busy. I got busy. But then I would call her person that she was helping. And that person would say, oh, she's awesome. We've had 3 meetings already. So basically what was happening is Mary was taking time for the person she was helping. That's the nurturing, right?
Sure.
But she wasn't taking for herself.
Ah.
Right?
So builds a bit of resentment organically.
Well, she's doing things it's kind of like the mother syndrome. I'll do things for the kids, but I'm not going to take time for myself to have a break or to work on myself. So then after, when we started finding that out, we would have to say to them, if you don't contact your advocate in 7 days, you lose them. You lose them and you go in a queue and they go off to someone else. And that did help a lot. But we had
that makes a lot of sense, Judith. Hey, Clay Nelson, founded their Relationship Unlimited. He's raised his hand. Clay, have you got something to say? Ask.
Hey, Judith, I've really enjoyed hearing all about View. This is an awesome thing that you have done for people, and you have best served people really well. And I'm interested to dig into something that you said earlier. and it's in the context of the differences between men and women. I've dealt with a lot of men in my 25 years in business, and you mentioned the fact that some of the women that you were mentoring up, pairing up, didn't keep records and didn't kind of continue the dialogue. So, and a lot of men did. They did keep, a dozen, I think was the number, 10 to 12.
Yes, yes.
And what I'm interested in is friendships. Because frankly, there's a lot of guys out there with zero friends. They don't have one friend that they can call on. Women have a ton of friends generally. And so it's so interesting what you have learned with you in uncovering some of that.
Well, and most of that I learned when I had FRG, because that's what we were finding. I'm not going for the roles, and they've got tons of girlfriends. They've got tons of girlfriends outside so they might catch up with someone outside, but in the office they don't. And probably the guys that you're talking about have people internally, but like you said, they don't have friends. So maybe it switches around. And I don't know if it's because of the team sport thing that starts off when they're young and they, sort of that type of thing, or maybe when the boys back in the day would go, it's like the boy could go down to the grocery store on his bike. But a little girl, your parent might say, no, I don't think so. I don't want you to do that. That's too dangerous. So it's kind of like that group. Now that's changing. That's changing over we've seen that, I think the generations now. And I think that the role models and what we're seeing, the girls are going out there and they're doing things. But I still had somebody from one of my friends, her daughter was in high school in Melbourne, and they're when they go away for 3 months, they had this thing. Their last day was to do an exercise with the girls with their mothers and the boys with their fathers. Well, the exercise with the boys was to go to the campfire and get wood and whittle a horse or figurines. And the girls was to go to the gymnasium, sit around in a circle and talk about their feelings. I said to her, I go, first of all, it should have been the same exercise.
It's very sexist.
Should have been, or at least given. Well, anyway, a group of girls protested that. So those girls obviously had mothers who were strong, independent, telling them that's not good enough for them to give them the confidence to go and do a petition to get that changed. And but I thought, well, God, we're still seeing that, really?
Yeah. Has anything changed?
Has anything changed? But I do think we are getting to a point where I think, like with women's organizations, and I don't want to be like shot down here, but for professional services, probably aren't necessary anymore in the way that they were 10 years ago when I started it, because we made a lot of leeway, and there's a ton of other ones out there that have made a lot of leeway. And I kind of think the organizations now need to be mixed. They need to be mixed, because now we should be at that point where we should be having conversations with everyone and talking about it. And then people, the young ones, need to know how to speak up communication is probably one of the biggest things that people need to learn these days, about speaking up if they're not happy with something and how to do that. So if you go into a work environment and you think someone's not speaking to you in the proper way, or they're discriminating with you, you need to know how to be able to address that. And
are you, with all the women you've seen, Judith, are you confident in the woman of this generation from a business ability?
am I confident that the women of this generation
Have the business ability but just based on every woman you've dealt with in your past, if you were to collate the data and then seeing many different demographics and generations, the woman today, are you looking at them in full confidence, being like they do have the tools to succeed in business today, or are you worried about that? And this is tying in closely to your statement around the issue around communication.
I'm not worried about them at all, because it's really, it boils down to what kind of support systems they have. And it's about what, that they take advantage of the people around them that will help them. So they need to be able to ask for help and not think that, they can have it all, they just can't do it all at the end of the day. So, I think it's not really a case of can women do it or men do it. It's really about what is it that I need as that individual to get to where I want to go. And if people just look at the fact that what are the skills? I need good communication skills. I need to deliver what I say I'm going to deliver. I need to provide quality. I need to follow up things. I need to connect, get out of that home office and get back to work and start meeting people. You're not good at people.
Touche. And it was interesting. I mean, the analogy I was trying to make is like the woman that you dealt with when you were in the thicks of your career versus the woman now, because technology has so vastly changed. So I was trying to look at that differentiation between, are you confident in the ability of women now because of what tools they have,
yes,
which could be limiting their capability because they are so far-fetched on their phones and not focused on the right things. But I just wanted to get your perspective from what you dealt with back in the day with women at that same age group to now, because you've seen across the spectrum of those generations.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
I just wanted to get that feedback. Yeah.
I really don't think there's an excuse now. I mean, all the resources are there. It's all out there. You know how to connect. You know how to network. There's all kinds of stuff. Back in the day, there really wasn't as much information. And the ones that achieved back then, they had to really find their networks. And they weren't really as easy to find as they are now. Now our networks are global. So we can really reach out a lot farther.
Lasha plug-in on LinkedIn. Judith, Lasha. Come on, how good. Give Lasha a plug. I love it. Lasha, right? Lasha plug-in on LinkedIn.
No.
Oh, come on. I know you're the guru recruiter here that wants people's contact details. It is the best ever. So it just attaches to LinkedIn, and every profile you go to, it enables you to find their email and mobile number.
Oh my God.
It's great. It's a great tool. I thought you were, but maybe you're still doing the traditional route. I don't know.
Well, when I with FRG, I'm just thinking that would have been, LinkedIn was just getting going at the time, yeah, and but it was, I remember the first time people were sending me invitations to be on LinkedIn, and I'm going, oh, geez, I can't be bothered doing this. This is just enough. I didn't know what it was. And then clients were sending them, and I thought, I can't say no to this. And then I because I thought LinkedIn was at the time just going to be something to replace recruiters, which it is really at the end of the day. But the thing is, we were in executive search. And that can't replace executive search, no matter what they do, because you need a human to be able to speak to someone who's happy at their job. Is not going to apply to an ad. And they're not going to apply to a gimmick or anything like that. So the people I was talking to, they were happy in their job. They were making lots of money. They were doing well. And I'd have to get them in for a coffee to say, yeah, but you can do better. And you can make more. And this is a better opportunity. And if it's not a better opportunity, well, then I wouldn't want you to go forward. But at least we've met, and I might come in handy in the future.
Smart, very smart. Fantastic. Hey, Judith, Beck, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on the Relationship Show. It's been an absolute pleasure, and you've provided some very actionable insights. I really do appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Always a chore. Thank you.